Thank you very much. Again, lots of interesting ideas, things to borrow from, modify and adapt to all sorts of different contexts. We've one last presentation by Suzanne Stevens, so I know we're running a little bit late, I'm mindful of that, but if everyone can just hang in there for a bit longer. I know Suzanne has got a very dynamic presentation for us, so thank you very much.
I just want to first say I'm so glad someone's realized that 50% is actually representation. So Zimbabwe, that's fantastic news. It's an honor to be here, and I will forsake the protocols as well, not only because I'm Canadian, and we're not as good at that, but for time. Now, I had the opportunity to travel to 15 African countries and interview pioneering leading ladies in 9 of those countries. And we did that for a web-enabled platform called Wisdom Exchange TV. And for those of you who are here with associations, it's a free site where 63 pioneers are educating future leaders. These women are trailblazers, leaders of many in politics, philanthropy, education, but mostly in business, and which is why I've been invited here today. Now, I learned something. I discovered something very interesting. African women all had a question for me. You see, they would ask me, Suzanne, how were you able to influence your husband to leave his leadership job and follow you for almost 2 years to Africa? I want to learn. And interestingly enough, Canadian entrepreneurs asked me a very different question. They asked me, Suzanne, how were you able to work side by side with your husband for 610 days, 22 hours, and 32 minutes, and still be happily married? I do train influential communications, and I'd like to say my husband is still in the same room with me taking photography. So as entrepreneurs, are we really that different? We all want to know how to influence situations, and we all want to know how to influence people, and perhaps we all want to know how to influence our husbands. But we also want to ensure we keep the sanity while doing it. And I may be able to help with the influential communication part, but the sanity, I defer to our African leading ladies who are pioneers, because they have really risen to the top. And some of those, which I do just want to point out, Janet is one of the women we interviewed, and Zulfat, are you here? Zulfat? The Rwandan, well, she is here if you haven't met her. Oh, she's not standing up. There she is. Now, we interviewed women that were very diverse. Some came from wealth, some came from poverty. Some extremely well educated, some with no tertiary education. Some who had the support of their husbands and family, and some who did not. And these women are a mix of all of those things. But there's some things I noticed. No matter what circumstance these women came from each one of those had some similar attributes. I'm only going to share very few of those with you today. Now, I'm often get asked the question, Suzanne, you're not African. Why do you have an interest in Africa? Well, look at these beautiful women. But there is a reality there. I had the opportunity to go to Africa 6 years ago, in my around 40. And I had the opportunity to listen to the dean of a business school. And these are the words that he said, and this is the catalyst for why I've donated so much of my time to my foundation, as well as to Wisdom Exchange TV. He said, the biggest problem in Africa is not AIDS, poverty, disease, or urbanization. He said the biggest problem in Africa is leadership. Amen? A lot of you women will appreciate that. And he said that not until moral leaders with integrity and justice arise will Africans' problems be solved. And I thought if we're going to look to integrity, let's look to women. And I want to start with one of the strengths. The first one is pioneering African women have integrity. Every single one of them that we interviewed has integrity. No matter what the consequences, she stays true to her moral fiber. No matter what. She is persistent. She looks at fear in the face, and she overcomes every single obstacle while honoring her family, her faith, and her culture. The second thing she does is she is authentic. She is who she is no matter if she's in the community, if she is dealing with stakeholders, partners, or her team. As Janet said, you work side by side with your team. They are authentic. The third thing, pioneers believe in serviceship, not rulership. They believe in working side by side, and they serve their community, they serve their teams, they serve their stakeholders, and they take that very, very seriously. They also honor the fact that they are followed. They don't take that for granted. She also knows that her title doesn't deserve respect. It's what she does every single day, who she interacts with, how she interacts with them, and what she produces every single day that gives her the title of a leader. And perhaps most importantly, she's humble. She's humbly in service of others. She practices holistic leadership. And what I'm referring to here is she considers people, planet, and profit in all her decision making. Yeah. Now, this is often referred to as the triple bottom line, and you're going to hear from a colleague and very good friend of mine, Kathleen Holland, who will be talking about ABW later today, which is her area of expertise. But she considers, first, the people, how an interaction has the impact on those people. She considers the environment and doesn't rape the environment of its resources, but puts back into it as well. And thirdly, she considers profit. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with leaders for the last 12 years, and I constantly encourage them to look at the values of people and organizations. And if you want to influence those outcomes, you need to take those into consideration. Well, African leading women are the ones that are very socially conscious. And what's interesting, every year more and more organizations internationally are looking to invest in and partner with organizations that are socially conscious. And African women, you are the leaders in that area. Now, this becomes very personal, because after almost spending 2 years in Africa, I actually changed a ton of our branding and started focusing on what I think African women do the best. And that is they cultivate conscious contributions. They look at their organizations and they evaluate how can we best serve the community, country, and continent. And you fill that gap. And we've heard that today on the panel. You fill that gap. And you're making money, hopefully, at the same time. So it's a true inspiration. They feel it is their duty to contribute. And you believe you are the change that you want to see in the world, and you are. So this is why today we're in celebration and learning about entrepreneurship. But African women are the best investment in Africa. They don't need aid, they need opportunity. And they need to work with us because they have the will, they have the passion, and they have the knowledge to deal with the injustices done on the ground. They will fix their countries and their communities. They just need our support. Now, with every strength, and there's many more, there's always opportunity. So I want to briefly touch on some of those. I had mentioned people, planet, and profit and conscious contribution, but sometimes those collide. And some entrepreneurs, sometimes we give so much and forget to charge for it. And that's not good planning. That's not good sustainability. For a couple reasons. One, as leaders, we have a responsibility to make profit so that we can deal with the ups and downs of the economy. And we've just gone through 5 years of it, so I know you understand that. The other reason is dependency syndrome. And in talking to a lot of leading ladies, what they've told me is people are becoming dependent. They're looking to the NGOs, they're looking to the government to support them instead of investing in themselves and their own development. You're here, so congratulations. But I encourage you as mentors to share with future women leaders and your peer group that they too need to invest in themselves, because my question is, if you're not investing in yourselves, why would anybody else? Which leads to another opportunity. And this is branding yourself and your organizations. So think about this as an expert, Eva Maria in Kenya, shares with us. Make a promise, communicate that promise, keep that promise, strengthen it, and expand that promise. And I'm going to just communicate that promise. Take the opportunity in forums like this to communicate your brand and sales opportunities or negotiating agreements. Make sure you're always communicating that promise. But also your insights and your expertise. One of the biggest gaps I found is I would syndicate blogs on Wisdom Exchange TV for our leading ladies. I have 5 blogs on my site. Because we have a responsibility as mentors as well. And we're not embracing technology, and you do have it available to you. So from blogging, thank you, from blogging to tweeting to social media. I know you're all on Facebook. I'm friends with some of you. So utilizing those tools to enhance your brand, because I have something important to say to you. If you don't brand yourself, somebody else will. And if you don't brand yourself, worse than that, technology will. If you haven't Googled yourself lately, find out what people are saying who you are. All right? The third one is think bigger earlier. Think bigger earlier. If you think bigger earlier, you'll be bigger later. We focus a lot of our attention on small to mid-size, and I understand you have to go through that process. But if I had $1 for every time a woman pioneer said to me, I wish I did this earlier. I wish I exported earlier. I wish I got partners earlier. I wish I collaborated with other women and other businesses earlier. Which leads to number 4 is partnerships. Every country I was in, women gave me a different perspective on this. But I encourage you, work together. Collaborate more, compete less, particularly going into the export markets, where you really can learn from some of the experts that went before you. And the last one I will share with you is succession planning. As entrepreneurs, nobody can replace us, right? The reality is, if we want our legacy to live on, we need to consider who should be replacing us. So keep your eyes open throughout the process to look for various people, not just 1, not just 2. Try to get 3 people that you think could be a good leader. They don't need to be you, they will never be you. But if there's one thing I've learned, that is leadership comes in many, many forms. So nurture it, mentor it, and cultivate it. The last 2 things I will say to you is I want to leave you with the words of Du Apani, a woman who's an activist in Swaziland. Her advice to African women is this: do not wait to be counted in. Count yourself in. African women are open to business, and we are there to export and work with you to do that. So we've all heard this. African women are the change agents of Africa, yes? African women are the change agents Africa needs. So lean in, ladies. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you very much, Suzanne. I'm going to very quickly, I see Lucien stalking up here, so I'm going to very quickly turn it over to him, and he can make the call on how we proceed. Thank you very much, and a big thank you, and I hope a round of applause for our panelists this morning. Thank you.